Hello, I'm Alyce, and these books are going to self-destruct in 12 months. So the idea of these books are going to self-destruct in 12 months was originally created by Becca from Becca at the Books, but I've also seen and really enjoyed videos from both Jade at JD Ray Reads and Becca at the Becca Fowl. So I'm going to link all of their channels down below if you also would still like to see more of these. So the idea is that if there are books on your shelves that you've been putting off reading for absolutely ages, it's not likely that you're going to pick them up, but this sets you a time limit. I'm like, okay, if I haven't picked these up in 12 months, so exactly a year after this video goes live, then I just unhaul them. So I've been sneaky and I picked quite a few series starters because that way I won't just be unhauling book 1, I will also be unhauling book 2 and 3 or more. Yeah, and book 4. So there is a chance that this could clear off quite a chunk of our shelves if I don't get these books read. But I'm hoping that I will get most of them read because they're ones that I'm still interested in, but I've been putting them off for so long that it is ridiculous. So, let me show you the books. First up, I have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I was actually gifted a proof copy of this from Hodder, and it's so embarrassing that I didn't read it. I didn't realise it was going to be the first book in a trilogy, and back then I was one of those people that I waited until all of the books were out before I read them all. I have a finished hardcover signed copy of this as well. I've got copies of Legendary and Finale on my Kindle, and I'm pretty sure that one of the book boxes that I subscribe to is doing Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is the companion series book 1 in October. So it's a case of if I don't get this read within the next 12 months, I'm going to have all of the books, multiple copies of the first book, and the spin-off series. And if I haven't started them at all, that's a bit pointless. So I will just clear some space. Welcome to Caraval, where nothing is as it seems. Remember, it's only a game. All I know about this is I think there are sisters who go to this circus. They get like an invite. I think this copy has like an invite in the beginning. It does. There's like letters and things starting it off. But they get an invite to go to this fair, and they're part of something called Caraval, I guess. Again, I don't really know much about it. There's just lots of hype around these. People are obsessed with this series. Like, there are so many different editions, and I have 2 of them, and I should read them. Or they will self-destruct. The next book on my list is The City of Brass by S.K. Chakraborty. A proof copy of this came in one of my Illumicrate boxes, and it is chunky. And I don't often read big books, or at this point, when this came, I think the longest book I'd ever read was like 500 pages, and this is like 520, but because it's a paperback and it's very floppy, it looks a lot bigger than that. I thought it was closer to 600 or 700. This is the first book in the Davabad trilogy. I can actually get books 2 and 3 on my library app as well, so if I do enjoy this one, I will be able to carry on with the series. Among the swirling sands of the desert and behind gilded brass walls lies an enchanted city of golden domes, jade roofs and marble palaces, a place where magic pours down every street, hanging in the air like dust. Welcome to Davabad, the legendary city of brass, but remember there is a reason that they say to be careful what you wish for. Step into a city of enchantment, desire and magic. I like enchantment, I like desire and I like magic, so this should be a win, right? The next book that will self-destruct in 12 months is Nightblood by Ellie Blake. This is the 3rd book in the Frostblood series. I read Frostblood and Fireblood back to back, and I really didn't enjoy them. I thought it was like the second book retold the first book, but from the other side of the battle, but it felt like exactly the same book. And I was scared that Nightblood was going to be exactly the same book again. So even though I said I was going to read this last January or February, I still haven't read it, and I've had it for like a year and a half now, so I should just finish off this series. If I haven't read it by the time this video is a year old, I don't think I ever will, because it's already getting to the stage where I can't really remember all that much about what happened in the first 2. There's a girl called Ruby. She is a Fireblood in a land ruled by Frostbloods. That is a no-no, and more things happen. I should probably just DNF this series, but I'm too stubborn, so I'm going to try and get through this one in the next year. Another series that I should probably DNF, but I'm too stubborn, is the Lord of the Rings series by J.R.R. Tolkien. So I have put The Return of the King on this list. Sean actually challenged me to read this as part of my 26 before 26 challenge. So Sean's going to hold me accountable and make sure I do read this and then it doesn't self-destruct. But if it does, it means I can just unhaul my whole Fancy Schmancy box set. And I wouldn't even be that sad because I really did not enjoy the first two. I loved The Hobbit. Read The Hobbit in one sitting and thought it was the bee's knees. And then I finally got to the actual bulk of the trilogy and it's just really boring. Like, nothing happens. They walk a lot. There's an interesting guy who tells, like, poems, and apparently he isn't in the films, so that's pointless. And this is book 3. And I know what happens in the second half because the only one of the films that I've seen is the last half of the third one, the extended features, because I was at a sleepover at a friend's house. And they were watching it, so I was like, okay, I'll jump on board. There's a big spider and a dragon that kind of looks like a chicken. And I know I'm going to see them in here, but, like, I think because everybody knows how this series ends. Even if you haven't read them, even if you haven't seen the films, I'm pretty sure everybody knows how this series ends. So it feels a bit pointless getting there if it's that slow. Massively controversial opinion because people love Lord of the Rings, but hopefully I will get this read in the next 12 months and maybe I'll like the ending and then I'll understand why I didn't like the first two and I might like them as like a whole story. Who knows? The next books on my list, the next two actually, are ones that I mentioned when I did my series review of Matched by Ali Condé, and those are Delirium by Lauren Oliver and Wither by Lauren DeStefano. So this is the first book in the Chemical Garden trilogy, and this book is the first book in the Delirium trilogy. And as far as I'm aware, they're both books in which it's a dystopian world and people have like a true love, and there was a time when love was the most important thing in the world. People would go to the end of the earth to find it. They would tell lies for it, even kill for it. Then at last they found a cure. So, like, love has been cured in this world. And then in Wither, someone's taken to become a bride because everybody knows when they're going to die. Females only live to the age of 20, so you basically just have to breed and reproduce as early as you can. So it sounds like they're both going to be quite similar. Similar to Matched as well, because that was all about like having that one perfect person and society dictating who you fall in love with, when you fall in love with them, how your relationship progresses. I didn't love the Matched trilogy, but because I own all 3 books in both of these series, I thought I would try the first ones of these. Hopefully I will enjoy them more than Matched, and if not, then at least that's another 6 books off my shelves, because these are quite old dystopians. So even though I'm still interested in them, because I bought them so long ago and they've been sitting on my shelves and I've kept putting them off, if I haven't read them by now, I'm not sure whether I actually will. So these ones might end up self-destructing, but at least I'm making the effort to attempt to pick them up. Also, it's really interesting, like the foil and the colour font there match like exactly. The next book on this list is another series starter, and this one still has the price tags on it from when I bought it in the British Heart Foundation, and that is Grave Mercy by Robin Le Fevers, which is the first book in the His Fair Assassin series. This is French nuns who are assassins. I think it's set in like the 1485, I thought it was the 1600s. I don't read a lot of historical, but I heard good things about this because they're nuns and they're assassins. That sounds amazing. And I've got the third one because I found that in the library book sale like 2 years ago. I've had this one for like at least 6 years, but I was waiting to read them when I had them all. Now I have the third one. I might as well read this one. If I love it, I'll buy the second one, and I won't mind if it's a bit more expensive. And then I've got the third one to go straight onto as well. But yeah, again, not a huge fan of historical, so not sure how this one's going to go. But French assassin nuns, I'm still interested. But isn't that also like the whole thing with Nevernight? Isn't that non-assassins? Or is that just assassins? Why am I getting nun vibes? I don't know. Maybe there's like a whole like subgenre of assassin nuns, but this one I'm still interested in. I'm really putting it on the wrong pile. I would have just been showing you the same books again. The next book on my list of books that will self-destruct in 12 months is The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutkowski. I love this book. I've read this book. I loved the sequel because I've read the second one as well, but I read the first 2 when the second one had just been released. Gave them both 5 stars, couldn't wait for the third one. Pre-ordered the third one. It arrived. I was so excited, and I wanted to reread the first two because I couldn't remember much about them, apart from there is a guy called Arin, and a girl called Kestrel, and she like buys him in a slave auction, but then they fall in love, and it's romantic as heck. It shouldn't be, because I know it's problematic, but the way that it's written, I don't hate it, and I thought I would. But basically, yes, wanted to reread the first two, and I still haven't. So if I haven't reread this within the next 12 months, I'm probably just going to unhaul them, because there's a good chance I will never get to the third one. But also, there is a good chance that a BookBox subscription company might end up doing special editions of the trilogy, and because I love the first two, I might get rid of the paperbacks in the hope that eventually I can have fancy signed hardbacks that I will actually read when they get here. So, if these do self-destruct, I will still end up reading them at some point. But I thought this is a good way of getting myself to read them sooner, because then the quicker I've read them, the quicker I'll know if I love the whole trilogy. So if they do announce a fancy schmancy set, then I'll know whether it's worth buying or not, because I'll know I love the whole trilogy and not just the first two and I hate the last one. No. The justification that I will go to buy fancy books is not healthy. The next book on this list is one that I have like 4 copies of, and that's Truth or Dare by Non Pratt. So I had a copy of this on pre-order. Sean had a copy when we moved in together. I found a proof in a charity shop, so I purchased it. And I got a copy in an Illumicrate box. 4 copies and I still haven't read it. I won a competition. You had to answer a truth. And it was who your most embarrassing celebrity crush was. And I put Nigel Thornberry. Because, like, he's a decent guy. Why wouldn't you want to have a crush on Nigel Thornberry? And I won a acrylic necklace of this cover. And it is beautiful. Like, I literally have merch that is super rare for this book. And I still haven't read it. I don't know what two sides. I don't know what Truth or Dare is about. But I do know it has 2 sides. It says, what truth must she face? One story, 2 sides. This is going well. It says, what truth must she face? One story, 2 sides. And then it says, how far will he dare to go? One story, 2 sides. So you like read half, and then you flip it over, and then you read half. And that is why I haven't read it, because I don't know how to read books like this. Because I could read her half, and then his half. I could read his half, and then her half. I could like alternate the chapters to get the story chronologically as it's playing out, and whichever way I read it will always and forever impact my enjoyment on this story. It's the reason I haven't read Replica by Lauren Oliver yet, because that is the same. You can like either flip it, or you can read it and then flip it and then read and then flip and then like do chapter by chapter. That's too much choice for someone who can't make decisions. But now I have to read it, or I have to unhaul all 4 of my copies. So this should force me to make a decision. I think I'm just going to read like the blue side and then read the yellow side. Maybe I'll ask somebody who's read it how they would recommend reading it, because I can't even decide how to hold it, because as soon as I hold it with the blue side up, I can see that the yellow side's upside down. Too much choices making. And the last book, which I don't have to flip up and down, is Inheritance by Christopher Paolini. This is the last book in the Inheritance cycle. I read the first 3 last summer. I loved Eragon. I didn't really like the second one, and then the third one got worse, and this one is so large. And I was doing a read along, so I was going to read this on the first day, and then this on the second day. I had it all tabbed out neatly. Definitely going to tick it off. No, we had Brisinga tabbed out neatly, and we were like 3 weeks behind on it. We were meant to read a book a month. Was it a book a week? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It was 2 weeks. 2 weeks for each book. We ended up getting so far behind that we finished Eldest as we should have been finishing Brisinga. So we were like 3 weeks behind. 2.5 to 3 weeks behind. So we did not catch up in time to read Inheritance. And I don't know if I'm ever going to read it because it's so long. And like, I kind of care because I like the characters. I kind of don't care because it's a bit like Lord of the Rings. Nothing really much happens. There's walking. The start of book 3 starts off really, really well because somebody has been kidnapped and they have to go and rescue them. And that's like, wow, they're going to rescue them. But then they rescue them. And then it's just like, oh, look, we rescued this person. And they come back and they're like, this happened while you were rescuing them. Okay. But, like, we could see that play out. And then they could, like, swing back in and be like, ooh, we've rescued this person. And they can be like, ooh, no, bad stuff happened. But there's just lots of, like, political discussions. And it just tires me a little bit. I still want to finish them because I've had this book recommended to me since 2006. That's, like, 15 years that people have been telling me to read this book. And the whole series. I might as well finish it off because I'm 3 books in. But I don't know if I'm going to like it. Tension. So, those are the 10 books that I have challenged myself to read within 12 months. Or they will self-destruct. So, we can hope that they won't. But also we can hope that they will because then we'll have nice shelf space for new books that we can also not read in a sensible amount of time. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any books that you would like to challenge yourself to, leave them down in the comments. And then in a year, we can all come back and revisit our lists together and just embrace the fact that we've all failed. Because, let's be honest, how many of these am I actually going to read? Probably like 1. Sean's going to force me to read Inheritance because he doesn't want to get rid of the other copies. Sean's going to force me to read The Return of the King. I don't think Sean's interested in any of the others, so he'll be happy to see the back of them. This is a bad idea. But yes, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, then please like it. If you would like to subscribe, we would be super duper uber grateful. And we will see you again soon with another video because we post new ones every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. So, bye! Font there, match like exactly. Just aesthetic things.